Good morning, good Friday morning, and we're so thankful that you're tuning in again, watching these devotionals. I pray with all my heart that this word will speak to you personally as it has spoken to me. One of my favorite words when I pray is when I tell him, Lord, you are my refuge. These are the words that I've learned from Psalm 91, verses 1 and 2. Let me read them for you. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Friends, this is one of God's most prominent promises, that He is our unchanging fortress. He is our available refuge. I love it. So many times we've memorized these verses, we have songs, we have sermons, studies around these words. And in times like this, where we become refuge in our homes, staying away from what's happening in the world, and also keeping others safe, I think it's a good time to meditate and learn the deeper meaning of God is our refuge, that expression. Let me go back to the Old Testament, tell you how we got this word. While the Jews were on their historic journey from Egypt to Canaan, God commanded them through His servant Moses that when they arrived to Canaan, when they conquered this land, they should set aside cities on the side of the river Jordan, and these cities will become known as the cities of refuge. Let me read for you. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 41 and 42. Then Moses set apart 3 cities on this side of the Jordan toward the rising of the sun, that the manslayer might flee there, who kills his neighbor unintentionally without having hated him in the time past, and that by fleeing to one of these cities he might live. Now, after Moses, the new leader is Joshua, and God was also very clear with him that the cities that he was going to assign to the Levites, 6 of them would become the cities of refuge. Let me read that for you. Joshua chapter 20, verses 1 through 6. The Lord also spoke to Joshua, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, Appoint for yourselves cities of refuge, of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the slayer who kills a person accidentally or unintentionally may flee there. And they shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. And when he flees to one of those cities and stands at the entrance of the gate of the city and declares his case in the hearing of the elders of that city, they should take him into the city as one of them and give him a place that he may dwell among them. Then, if the avenger of blood pursues him, they shall not deliver the slayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor unintentionally, but did not hate him beforehand. And he shall dwell in that city until, here comes the process, he stands before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of one who is high priest in those days. Then the slayer may return and come to his own city, his own house, to the city from which he fled. So much we just read, but a beautiful story. Let me tell you the names of these 6 cities, which are very historically important, even right now, to the Jewish people. Golan. I'm sure you heard plenty about the hills of Golan in the news lately. Ramoth, Bosor, Kedesh, Shechem, and Hebron. These 6 cities are crucial, are holy places for the Jewish nation even right now. But most importantly, what I want you to understand, that these are not the cities, the place where people will flee, go, and never be accountable what they had done. That is not the case. These are the cities where they will be restored. This is the place where they will repent from what they've done. They will grow out of that sin. They will have a change of mind, character, heart, until they stand in front of the congregation for judgment. One of the high priests may die, shall die, and then he can go back to freedom. Why am I saying all this? Because you and I, those who we find our refuge in God. Now I understand that we are in our city of refuge. Because us too, we have killed the purpose image of God in us one day when we chose sin. Now immediately the enemy comes to avenge, to break us, to make us guilty, to bring shame on us. And then we hear about this place where we can be safe. We hear about this God, in Him we can be restored. So we start running towards God, and God says, come to me. Those who are tired of fleeing, who are tired of their sinful reality, come to me and find rest. Be restored. This story takes another another format in Hebrews chapter 6 verses 17-20. Let me close with this. So when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise, the unchangeable character of His purpose, He guaranteed it with an oath. God made an oath with us, so that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie. Here comes one. We who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We find ourselves in our city of refuge with the hope that is right before us. That when I go towards God's fortress, when I seek for that refuge place, He will receive me. Verse 19, we have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of our soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain, where Jesus has gone as a forerunner on our behalf. Hear this, having become a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. There is a place of refuge. And there is a high priest who died on the cross to open that curtain and welcome us. The word says our high priest knows what we go through. He knows our pain. He knows what we feel inside out. He knows what we're fleeing for. He knows. Because He knows we're safe. Because He knows we can confess and even expect forgiveness. Because His promises are unchanging. So when today you use the word refuge, you say, Lord, you are my refuge, my fortress. Just think about this word. Us fleeing, running away from that past, from the flesh, from the broken, from the sinful, to a place where our high priest died on the cross to make it accessible and available. A place where we will be restored in a fortress. And one day in eternity, we will have a complete freedom. Something, somewhere that God has intended for us to be always. So God is my refuge. He is my fortress, my God. In Him I will trust. Amen.